Welcome to the Drone On podcast. Sorry, I'm fighting a little bit of a cold. Spring's setting in here. I'm filming today at Big Bone Lick State Park in Union, Kentucky. And anyways, I'm Will Gillen with Aero Velocity, and today's guest is Randall Warnas, CEO of Anzu Robotics. And Randall has a long, distinguished history in the drone industry, career, I should say, from founding Drone Plus to starting the enterprise sales at DJI to FLIR Systems to the CEO of Altel Robotics, one of the largest manufacturers in the drone industry. And I met Randall when he was vice president of sales and marketing at Workhorse Aero, and we tag teamed quite a few sales calls together, and I learned a ton from him. But a little over a year ago, Randall started Anzu Robotics, and Randall called upon all these past experiences working with these types of companies, running different divisions and stuff like that, working with DJI and navigating the industry to kind of take on a unique and interesting approach with Anzu. But it hasn't been the easiest road either. So I'll let him talk about that here in a bit. And Randall is also a mentor to many in the drone industry, giving up his free time, putting his calendar out there for people to jump on and to speak with him. People like me to bounce ideas off, or he can give advice. He's a pay it forward type of person, and so I can't thank him enough for being a guest and encouraging me to start this podcast. He's given me a lot of great recommendations, and so I'm excited to talk with him today. One last thing before we start the interview, we just published the webinar with YellowScan that just went live today, and thank you for all those who joined and were on the recording. And if you want to learn about what the work that we're doing with YellowScan and the USDA, the NRCS, which is the United States Department of Agriculture, and the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Links to that will be on our website as well as on LinkedIn, and I'll try to put them down in the description section here as well. So without further ado, thank you for listening, and here's Randall. Appreciate it.
All right, well, I guess we'll get started. So the other day I had to take I didn't have to, I got the option to take a PTO day, and my brother needed a babysitter. And so he's got a 4-year-old, and the weather was crappy, and I was like, well, maybe instead of just sitting here in front of the TV, I'll take him to the museum. And so we got to the museum, and they're having a dinosaurs Omnimax. They got one of those theaters that covers you. And so I'm watching this Omnimax, and it's all about dinosaurs. And one of the dinosaurs that popped up was an Anzu dinosaur. And I was like, oh, that's
no way.
There's the name. So I that meme of Leonardo DiCaprio, he's got the drink and he points at the TV. That's I had that moment. I'm like, oh, there's Anzu. Because I didn't understand, but I thought that was really, really cool. I was like, okay, Anzu and the raptor. And so that made sense to me. But I kind of wanted to ask you, what was the idea behind the name Anzu?
Yeah. So there was not a ton of thought. This wasn't something that we got locked in on and spent a lot of time deciding. At the end of the day, there's something strategic about putting your name in the A category of things. When you're looking at exhibitors at a trade show, when you're looking at folks that are doing anything in any space, it's usually alphabetical. And so you benefit from being seen early, like the old, phone book style thing. You just look for an A name. That was a plus. Doing something takes flight, but is not the usual Falcon, Hawk, Eagle, etc. To still kind of stay in that theme, but not be overly obvious. We found something that does have flight, and something that has a little bit of its own personality, but not overused. And that's really how it landed. It was just a brainstorming session. Sounds good. Move forward. Move on to the next thing to start the company.
Gotcha. Yeah, and not that this has anything to do with anything, but one of the cool facts that I heard in that movie, they said for every one dinosaur fossil that we find, and specifically like the T-Rex and the Anzu, they're saying 80 million of these dinosaurs probably lived, and for us to find one, one just happened to fall in the mud and fossilize perfectly. I just thought that was really cool, and kind of a unique story, but Anzu's kind of a unique story in and of itself. And I got to be honest, I was a little bit, I'll be the first to admit, I didn't understand when I first saw Anzu. I thought, maybe it's just like, I don't know, a shell company of DJI. And after doing a lot of research into it, I was completely, absolutely wrong. I learned a lot about kind of what your vision is with the company, and I'd be happy to hear about that from you. But I just thought it was really cool. You're kind of taking a unique approach to some problems that we face in the drone industry, not just Anzu specifically, but air velocity, anybody operating drones. Not to get political either, but there's a lot of turmoil and there's a lot of things going on that affect how we operate. And,
Yeah, definitely. We're at a pivotal stage in the drone space where, I started my drone journey in 2014. The challenge there was to get general understanding of what the technology was and to move the word drone away from things that kill people and into something benign. Then we got to a place where drone meant thing that flies, takes pictures, and is used for a Christmas present for either a young or middle-aged male, and we've tried to kind of expand that into being something that's a tool that has life-saving properties, has commercial efficiency properties, and kind of spread that expansion and proliferation of drone technology until we got to around 2022, I would say, where things did get very politically charged, because DJI is the largest manufacturer of drones, is 85% of the market share, give or take. And there's this kind of anti-Chinese, no trust on the data security sentiment. We're finding state and local police departments having to shelve millions of dollars of investment in Chinese manufactured drones and fly things that, in my opinion, are less reliable, less quality of data, not as easy or user friendly to fly, and cost 3 to 5 times more expensive than the Chinese competitors. So this movement to legislate out Chinese manufactured drones doesn't sit well with me. I don't think that that's the way that we get to the top. And yesterday, another drone manufacturer, I was moderating a panel, and Jack Wu, CEO of Nightingale Security, a very U.S. focused and U.S. centric company, said, as an American, I think that it is un-American to legislate to win. And I feel like that was surprising coming from a U.S. manufacturer, someone that is a part of this true blue movement. But it's 100% true that we just need to make better technology and win on that front. I understand the concerns about relying too heavily on Chinese drone technology for everything, but when it comes to public safety and critical infrastructure inspection, etc., it does the job, and the data has been proven to be secure. Now, to get to the Anzu journey, 2 years ago, this is the foundational conversation, but we launched in April of last year. The idea is that we license DJI technology. We take that technology from China, manufacture it in Malaysia using at least 51% Malaysian sourced components, which is required for the Made in Malaysia stamp. And then we use US based software, US based servers that are not owned or addressed by DJI in any way or China in any way to secure data that does end up living in the cloud. What we feel like we've done is kind of scrub the Chineseness out of the world's leading drone technology and made it available for those that have been either their organization or governmental law legislation has passed to make it so that these drones can't be Chinese drones or DJI drones can't be used, that we still create this avenue, especially for a lower cost, high quality, scalable product in which you could order today and fly tomorrow, rather than some domestic drone manufacturers that don't offer any of those things.
Mhm. And to me it seems like there's a ton of police departments, there's a ton of search and rescue groups that are operating DJI aircraft, and they have all the batteries and extra components and stuff like that. And then if for whatever reason the DJI does get banned, at least they can operate Anzu robotic, and a lot of those components can be used in the Anzu, in the Raptor. And I thought that's an excellent way of kind of diversifying. And there's a lot of police and search and rescue that are using these types of drones to save lives every day. And what happens if legislation says, okay, no more DJI? And I think that's Anzu's situated in a really unique position to kind of help with that problem.
Yeah, when you talk about a ban of DJI, and let's call it a ban of just Chinese manufactured drones in general, because it won't be just DJI impacted by that. Here's a number of ways that the drone space in the United States are impacted. And let's use as like a general consensus that the United States has this goal to be leaders in everything that is cutting edge and technology driven. So if we, the United States, fall behind because we no longer have affordable drones to be used in STEM programs in high schools and universities, because drones are too expensive and too hard to attain. We don't have scalability, so you order a drone today and you don't get it for 18 months. You can't get batteries, motors, etc. domestically sourced, and so those are coming out of China anyway. We're seeing this problem with one leading manufacturer right now where you can't get batteries, or you can only get one battery per drone for some period of time because they move their battery manufacturing out of China. You no longer have a gateway drug to drones, to quality drones. There's no one making a sub $1,000 consumer drone in the United States or domestically. Parrot was the most close to that, being a French manufacturer, but they stopped making consumer drones because DJI had cornered that market, and there's just was not a lot of ways for them to compete. So we have seen, like in the state of Florida, where legislation was passed where they have to use Blue UAS distinguished drones, go from millions of dollars of taxpayers' dollars be shelved and then removed from their premises. You had for every 10 drone pilots you had serving communities and protecting not only physical assets but human lives. For every 10 drone pilots now you have one, just because they can't afford the technology and they can't justify to re-up those investments again. That was years ago. I don't know when that Florida legislation passed, but it might have been 4 or 5 years ago. In 4 or 5 years, have we found that Chinese drones are doing something with data, especially data of cops chasing crackheads through forests, or firefighters monitoring either a wildland fire or a structural fire? I don't know what is the concern there, and we have significantly made communities less safe by doing so. Anzu is in a position in which we can manufacture these Chinese manufactured drones in Malaysia or elsewhere, so that we can take care of those concerns about where the data goes and who is the benefactor of these transactions. But we've also had our own challenges with the U.S. federal government in their understanding of what Anzu is, how we're funded, how we're run. And I've said this for a long time. Education is one of the most difficult things to accomplish, especially when you're talking about millions of people, and especially when you're talking about people that are not naturally driven or magnetized to a certain technology. To educate legislators who don't need to listen on how Anzu Robotics is potentially like the saving grace of the U.S. drone industry, how jobs are protected if we allowed Anzu to flourish, that communities are protected if we allow Anzu to flourish. It's the federal government getting exactly what they want, which is no transactions to China and to cultivate a domestic drone manufacturing hub. Uh, we're doing all of those things, but it has been 10 months now of the challenge of getting that through to people. That Anzu is silly. It's a silly concept, but it was necessitated by federal legislation that has been proposed and state by state legislation that has passed to just scrub this country out of the technology, but don't leave us hanging and don't make flying drones no longer a democratic thing. When I say democratic, it's like a something for the people rather than only for the elite or only for big companies that can afford big budgets.
Mhm. Yeah, and like I said, I'll be the first to admit that I had a misconception, and maybe I just read the headlines, or maybe some of the bad press that seemed to be more pushed than the good press. And since actually learning about Anzu, I've completely changed my mentality and my way of thinking. And even though my career got started in drones through DJI, so I am a fan of DJI, or I'm a fan of their products for sure. But um, you know, I think maybe the education or the push, it's been very negative towards DJI and towards maybe Anzu, especially in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And I I can only imagine it's been kind of hard to adapt to some of that and kind of get around it.
Yeah, so we launched the company, I believe, is April 17th of last year. By middle of May, so within 4 or 5 weeks, I was in conversations with Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, New York Times, The Hill, Beacon. These were reporters in big scale publications asking about my small 5 week old company. And I was proud of that. I think that there was something, it was a unique experience for me. Not everyone gets to have the New York Times put an article out about them and their business. But like you said, like the negativity that was expressed by legislators around the United States who have never met me in my life, there's no way they knew how my company was structured, funded, etc. They just assumed that there was, something mischievous or shady going on. The people that know me, 11 years in the drone industry, would know like I'm not a bad guy. I'm not an agent of the Chinese Communist Party. I'm not, here trying to steal people's data and do something self-serving. I was uniquely positioned to do something like this, having been a DJI employee that was trusted and they understood, what I'm about and my work ethic. That's important. That's really hard to achieve overseas, having that level of trust to take on a licensure like this, as well as we had the funding here in the United States with myself and my business partners to get it off the ground. We had the relationships with software companies to like Aloft, who is doing the kind of native app that is on our drones and secure that data. We had vision to how to put everything all together, and then we had a customer base. I think that I have said over the really daunting 10 months of Anzu that I was like built for this. I was built for this level of stress. I was built for this kind of product. I was built to take on the challenges that are uniquely facing Anzu right now as a manufacturer in the drone space and maybe as a manufacturer of technology in general. We did something kind of unprecedented, and I understand why you or others wouldn't have understood or don't understand currently why we're doing what we're doing. But I feel confident that as time goes on, if there are still these threats to the commercial drone industry and, in a sense, the consumer drone industry, of the access to technology that they can afford to go away, that Anzu's purpose will be much more clear
Mhm.
when the threat is now you can no longer find a drone, you can no longer afford a drone, or you can no longer receive a drone within a reasonable amount of time because of domestic manufacturing necessities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely, you know, a lot more clear to me. I would say kind of the first couple of months when Anzu came out, I was like, Right. Yeah. But I should have known, I knew you from our past relationship. I should have known, but it's been really interesting, to kind of see, not only are you taking, there's no doubt that DJI has got the best drone engineering, in the market, and you guys are taking that, and you're an American company. Anzu's American company, and the data is stored here in America, and that's kind of some of the big ticket items that people seem to be the most nervous about. Is like, where's our data going, and we want to be able to talk to the company that we're dealing with. And so I think that's really awesome that Anzu's taking this unique approach, and I think this could be kind of a game changer, for the market, and for like I said, companies that are operating DJI, but hey, they're seeing kind of the way things are going, and Anzu is an excellent option.
Yeah. So one thing that's kind of like an interesting part of this story is in August of last year, I received a letter one Tuesday morning from the House Committee on Special House Committee on Chinese Communist Party, or China. And basically they asked 9 questions, and they said, we want you to respond to these questions within, a week or two, and then we want you to come to Washington, D.C. and for a briefing. And I haven't had many opportunities to talk about it, mostly because the press scared the shit out of me last time I went through a cycle of talking to big publications. I have talked to a few, off record since then, but we haven't made a big deal of it because we figured that not talking about it is better than making a big deal of it. But what I will say to you, and it allows me to unburden myself a little more to get things off my chest, is that we went to DC and sat in a meeting with 5 congressional lawyers and a guy from likely a 3-letter organization that was in the room that didn't necessarily identify where he was from, and was grilled for 3 hours by the U.S. federal government on the questions they had about Anzu, how we're structured, how we're funded, where the data is going, what conversations led to this business being set up. The conclusion of that conversation was, okay, we see that you are Team America. We did have some misconceptions that you have come and resolved those misconceptions, but we still believe that there's more for you to do. And that is one thing that I agree with entirely. We have not done everything to the point of like completion, right? We're not a company that in the short amount of time from pre-launch and the short amount of time since we've launched have figured out every single way to solve for every situation. We are not an NDAA compliant drone. We still get components from China as of today. 51% or more comes from Malaysia, but there are some things that just would have required re-engineering, which wasn't possible, or was possible, but it would have taken time and money, and we didn't want to do it. We are not blue UAS. We are not green UAS. I personally don't think we will be, but that's a different story. There are things related to the licensorship of the technology from DJI in which they still own that IP. And so we did not take their drones and rewrite the entire stack of software. We took out anything that was like endpoint related or call out related to DJI or DJI servers and moved those either to Aloft servers or took them out entirely. We feel like we've done a lot to prove that by way of a third-party penetration test we did before we even started shipping. Large industrial companies in the United States that are using our drones have done their own assessments of our cybersecurity assessments on our drones. We've had the U.S. federal government do cybersecurity assessments of our drones, as well as we have a large military organization in the continent of Europe, in which is using our drones in a very meaningful way, and they've done their own third-party cybersecurity security vetting of our drones. I sit today very confident that an objective party to what we've done would be satisfied. Are they going to see 100% clarity? No, because we still connect to the internet. It's possible to connect these drones to the internet. So you will always have some threat of hacking or whatever that can be done. There's not going to be a situation in which we are going to be able to resolve everything, but we're not stopping. And that's the point that I'm trying to get to, is that even though we've been, questioned early as an organization. And even though the people questioning what Anzu is about are high ranking, high visibility people, that me standing here as a CEO, I am confident that we are doing the right things for the drone user. We are trying to make it so that there are options and that you're not stuck, in that huge landslide of going from we're trained on DJI, we've used DJI, we're used to DJI data, going all the way to, a drone that it has a thermal camera you don't need, or is has a subscription model of software that you don't need, or is hard to come by because they're filling governmental contracts as well. I feel like those things, like I said, will all come to fruition and all be quite obvious as we move forward. But it doesn't mean that we are satisfied with where we've gotten to this point. There's more to be done.
Yeah, yeah, and I applaud you for being able to navigate through all that when it had to be stressful and challenging, but it's a product that you believe in and a company that you've built and worked really hard for, and but you're no stranger to that type of stuff. You kind of were in the early days, 10 years ago, kind of starting off with the first drone retail shops in Las Vegas, and then you guys grew that to all over the United States. And
Yeah.
and your resume is a lot of the top dogs in the drone industry, from DJI to FLIR to our kind of time together at Workhorse. I learned a lot kind of from you, just in the short period that we worked together. And it set me up to talking with people all over the world. I remember staying up late one night so I could talk to somebody in Australia about Workhorse drones. It was just a really fascinating, and I guess my question is, how is your background led you to this kind of position you're in now?
Yeah, it's really, I like the question because there's things about me that are maybe assumed or unknown because people don't give a crap about who I am. But I grew up to two immigrant parents in the hood in Salt Lake City. Nothing special about my upbringing. I was not pushed to go to college. I was not pushed to become anything, and I made choices in my life that just allowed me to see my potential and believe in myself and do something. Fast forward to finishing grad school, I was going to be an officer in the U.S. Navy doing intelligence, and started a business just before that, like you said, in Vegas, the first brick and mortar drone store, and things were going well, and I pivoted and I made one of the most difficult decisions of my life to drop out of officer candidate school and go back to my business. And I did so with like a tail tucked between my legs and a lot of shame. But I think that fast forward 11 years, I have made very few decisions that I regret. I've made very few enemies in this space. I have tried my best to stay true to who I am every single day. But 11 years in, I still don't see myself as like uh, an expert, so to speak. Like, I know the drone industry very, very well. I feel like I'm one of the more well-connected people in the drone industry, and I feel like I've made myself available to people around the world as far as to communicate, to bounce ideas off of, to support things that they're doing. I've been privileged to be within big organizations. Without DJI, without FLIR, without my brief stint at Autel, like a lot fewer people know who I am, and my work doesn't necessarily go as far without those experiences. And so that is one key takeaway, is that an organization can bring you a lot of lift. You still have to choose to create your own brand, to stay humble, to take the phone calls from people that are a pain in the ass, and take the phone calls from the high visibility, high potential customers. You have to do it all. And at this point, I've done it all, from starting Drones Plus and cleaning the toilets once a week, to putting my money where my mouth is, to resigning from a CEO position after 9 weeks because it wasn't right. I just have had my own journey in this, and I think that it would be a misconception for anyone to feel like I've done it, that I had like some special route. I have just chosen every day to be myself, to, treat people kindly, to trust my instincts and use the skill sets I know I have to make business work. But I, as you know, like I just encourage everyone to take a shot at things, and that's how you gain that visibility. Is you just put yourself out there. Don't ask permission. Don't wait for someone to tell you to do it. You just do it, and I mean, it pays off. All that work has paid off over the 11 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're also kind of unique position to help mentor people getting into the drone industry, or people that have been in the drone industry that just haven't found their right, skill set or where they want to be.
Right.
And, one of our recent new hires, Ricardo Collins, was a recommendation from you. And, Ricardo's an amazing drone pilot, and he's got an excellent background. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about, kind of, the idea behind kind of doing some of your mentorship, and what your kind of goals and aspirations for helping these people like myself.
So, in November I got divorced, and going from someone that has a house full of people every day that you have to cater to, you turn off your computer at the end of the workday and then you go take care of the family, to being someone that has 3-4 days a week where I don't have anybody in my house and I do what I want. People would ask me, like, at some point I hope that I can retire, and hopefully I retire early. Hopefully that some of this stuff pays off and I can rid myself of the grind that I'm in, or it'll just be a different grind. But people would ask me what I would want to do, and I always said I would want to be a university professor that helps engineers figure out how to productize and go to market with their concepts, because we have a lot of that in aerospace, a lot of that in drones, where you can make a product and it could be amazing, but getting seen, building relationships, building a team, managing all those people, raising money, like, it's all of that's very daunting, and not everyone can do it well. And then I was like, I could do that now. And so what I did, after I had this idea in the shower, after that shower, probably still wrapped up in my towel, I go to my computer and I post something on LinkedIn saying, hey, if anyone would be interested in like some sort form of mentorship, like, I'm available for that. I thought I'd maybe get 3 or 4 people to respond to it. Instead, it was like 250.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know how to vet all of that. I can't talk to every single one of these people. Like, it just was a lot. So I went through one process, which is still kind of ongoing, to figure out like 1 or 2 people I would mentor for a period of time. And again, it's not because I think that I've done anything special, but I think that when someone is constantly lighting a fire under your ass when it comes to your career, it's like a therapy, but it's career therapy, I guess. That you can achieve more because you have someone believing in you, you have someone holding you accountable, you have someone pushing you to do things that you wouldn't do otherwise. I see there's power in that, and just being a friend to people, whether I knew them or not, whether I understand their or have the same vision as theirs or not, that I could be some sort of positive influence in that. That was kind of the precipice. What I ended up doing now is I'm still searching or getting to a point where I'll figure out long-term mentorship. And, talking to someone once a week, it's a lot. Like, sometimes you don't have anything new to share. So I'm trying to reassess that. But the other side of it is I set myself a goal to do 100 hours of free mentorship by setting a weekly calendar of available slots, 30-minute slots people could drop into. That allows me to address this larger number of people that maybe just want to drop in and share their experience. But what I'm at, like, 53 instances right now, 53 people
Wow.
that I've talked to in these drop-in sessions, over 30 hours in a month and almost 2 months now. And there are people that are just like me, scared shitless, like worried that their whole world is going to get turned upside down, worried they're not good enough, worried that they're going to lose their job tomorrow, get laid off. that, they're going to be exposed. I have imposter syndrome like crazy. And so a lot of these people, the people that are willing to raise their hand and be like, yeah, I could use some help, like that takes a certain level of openness and a certain level of humility to do, which I love. But me as somebody that grew up without a parent figure to look at and be like, I'm going to design my career after them. My dad is a plumber. He's had one job his whole life. He's never had a job interview. He's never had a resume. That is my guiding light. And what he's taught me is to be a good person, but he never could teach me how to go to school. He could never teach me how to get a job or hold a job, right? So I put myself out there to be the person that I never had, to be somebody that was encouraging and supportive and has contacts and avenues to help alleviate some of the pain. So Ricardo working for you, and I don't think he would mind me sharing this. He's a great drone pilot that was like, look, I'm at a place in my life where I'm trying to figure out what's next. I served in the military for a long time. I've been doing this drone stuff, but I'm not finding fulfillment in the direction I'm going. And I was like, wait a second. I know someone you should talk to. And that instinct that I have to matchmake is nothing new. It's I pride myself in it. But for me to put Ricardo in touch with your team and for him to have a livelihood based off of that relationship building, there is not a thing on the planet of Earth other than doing so for my kids that is more fulfilling than that. And so when I have hours of mentorship calendar stuff to look at and it stresses me out and I'm like, oh, I could be doing 1,000 other things, every conversation I have, I leave and I'm like, I'm so grateful I can make an impact on someone's life, even if it's just having them like look at their website differently and try to cultivate more opportunities, or making introductions where they're having job interviews or achieving new career opportunities. I wish more people looked out for others like that. I mean, most people don't even look out for their best friends in that way, let alone strangers. And so, again, it's not that I'm special. It's just that I'm willing to do something, and it's made me so happy. And like I have a purpose every week to talk to people that need help and maybe not even need, just are willing to listen to a perspective. And yeah, it's making me a better person, and hopefully I'm making a positive impact on others as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's amazing what you're doing. And it's almost a snowball effect. You affect somebody, then that person goes, oh, how can I help somebody else? And something that we recently started at Air Velocity, working with one of my old colleagues, Tommy Sunderhouse. He's the program coordinator at Sinclair College in Dayton, Ohio, and they have one of the largest kind of UAS degree programs. And that's something that I've mentioned this in a lot of my other podcasts. When I was in college, I don't know of any degree programs that were specifically in UAS, and so I think sometimes people either getting into the industry, or people like Ricardo that are coming from the military. There's not always an easy, clear path of how to get a drone job in the industry. And so kind of some of the thoughts we had with this internship program is, helping, kind of giving back. How does a student, we want quality applicants for the job. We want people that have experience with LiDAR, multispectral, and they got their Part 107. How do we kind of help out with that? And so that's kind of some of the idea between the internship program with Sinclair, and we actually just hired our first intern just recently, James Bradley, and he's going to help out with learning some of the data processing, some of the LiDAR work that we do with the USDA and the U.S. Forestry Service. There's a lot of back end stuff that goes into getting that data ready to be presented to the customer. And so
yeah
but yeah,
it's a lot of that. And like, okay, so for instance, there is a young woman, recent college grad, who lives in the Northeast United States. She is doing something in the service industry, waiting tables, something like that. Has a degree, wants to be in the drone industry, but it's like, how do you crack it? You post, you look for job posts and you put in your resume. Like, functionally, that is not how people get jobs, especially scarce jobs. It is recommendations, it is referrals, it is direct like introductions. It is rarely a stack of resumes and someone's going through them and then is like, oh wow, look at this experience. Like it's really hard. And so you've been in the drone space for what, 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
You're a veteran in this. And so someone going to you and being like, how do you navigate this? What are the opportunities? What does it feel like to have a job in the drone space? Like, we are lucky and we are a rare few that are a part of something, really like woven into the fabric. And Aero Velocity is lucky to have you, but the day that you're like, somewhere else is going to need me, you have all that experience. Where folks coming out of university without any experience, without any like proven experience, they're often overlooked. But they are people that are open-minded, hardworking, open calendars or schedules that, you know, are less impeded by the rest of life as you get older. They're great candidates to look at and to be assessed. Then you have to have some sort of filtration system of who is going to do a good job, who's going to take it serious, who does have a passion for this rather than, you know, a paycheck. And internships are a cool, really cool way to do that, to give someone something that resembles work experience without making a long-term commitment to them. It's fine. I think that then it helps them leapfrog to an organization that really like scratches more of their itches and that they can be a larger contributor to. Um, One thing about internships is that they say that an intern should be a net negative for a company, meaning that you put more into that intern than you're getting as an output. That it is about cultivating a human being, not about getting free labor. And so maybe that's what many companies try to like, don't delve into that, is that you have to manage this person and, you know, show them the ropes and direct them. But more companies should see that the internship route is truly this huge valuable asset that people take pride in. They put it on their resumes. They talk about when they don't have a lot of experience to talk about as far as what they've done in the past. And so if you at Aero Velocity have set that up, consider expanding it and expanding it rapidly, because you're doing like the industry a favor and you're doing these human beings an even bigger favor.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we just started this in January, so last month, and we've already kind of got some interest from other colleges that have internship programs, and as well as not just colleges, but also some high schools. You know, some of the kind of career prep schools that are, you know, giving or helping young kids that are still in high school get their Part 107 while they're still in high school. And you know, I actually was a guest speaker last week at Sinclair, and they brought in a couple of these schools. And, you know, a lot of the questions from these high schoolers, like, once I get my Part 107, what do I do next? And it's like, well, you know, talk to Sinclair, you know, and that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
it is fascinating to kind of, you know, if you put yourself in their shoes, what would you do? And having been in the drone industry for a little while, you know, I can answer a lot of those questions. You know,
For sure. I just something kind of that I think is a cool thing to share is on March 6th, I'm going to the elementary school that I went to when I was growing up.
oh, wow.
And it is rated an F grade school. It is very poor, you know, a lot of English as a second language. But I grew up there in that hood, in that area. I know what it's like to be a kid there. I know that not a lot of the kids there are going to be encouraged to achieve things. And I get to be an alum of this elementary school and go for their STEM day and be like, I'm the CEO of a company making this product that we're going to let kids fly around and like get excited about. And it's like, you, anyone can achieve things. And I've always been a big fan of folks that have had like really difficult hands dealt to them and they've made something of themselves. My best friend's, dad died as he was young, and his mom was not the most stable person, and he chose to just be a good human being and chose to like invest in himself, and he's a successful person without problems. And we still are Americans, and in my case, we're straight white males that we like, if we bitch, then we are missing something, right? There's a whole world of people out there that do not have the opportunities we have. So when you are in this country, when you do have the opportunity to have an education and you're completing it, whether high school or college, you are already setting yourself apart to achieve something. It is almost necessary for you to step on someone's shoulders to get you to a place of success. Reach out to people wherever you land or wherever you are in the process of finding your path and finding your career and how you're going to make money and support a family or whatever you want to do. Rely on the people to help you get there. Ask for help, and I'm sure that they'll find the same satisfaction I find of giving someone an opportunity just by making an introduction or building up their confidence to take the next step. It is like a cheat code to life, and I think that I really obviously am underlining it, that you do not need permission to be a helpful hand to somebody that you care about or don't care about. Just put yourself out there and you'll make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I've learned from the drone industry is, it's still relatively a small industry, and networking is still so big. We go to some of these conventions and I see the same people, and some of them may be our competitor. For instance, Yoshi Schechter of Alamo Airborne, they're a drone service provider. We're a drone service provider, but as the Venn diagram kind of goes, there's a little overlap in the middle. We hire vets and we do inspections and that type of stuff, but they're more, they may have things that a customer may come to us and be like, hey, we want you to do this. It's not really something we specialize in. How about you talk to Yoshi, or vice versa? And it's all about those connections and networking, and instead of putting up a defense, be more open to talking with other people, and you never know where it could lead. That's just something that my 5 years in the drone industry has been really incredible.
100%, man. I'm naturally an introvert. I don't put myself out there, at trade shows and things. Like, if I could just sit in a corner or not show up at all, it would be better for like my personal, social anxieties and comfort levels. But I force myself to do what I got to do as far as being a public facing person. But yeah, like this industry is so small that you can get a pretty good landscape of who's who pretty quickly, especially if you're putting yourself out there. And the community is very live on places like LinkedIn and places like Facebook groups. Burning bridges and getting a bad reputation is not so good. And there are specific organizations that have almost trained a culture of us versus them, that have trained this concept of defensiveness, like you mentioned, where there is no competitor. We are all trying to do something positive by using robotics and using intelligence and autonomy and human ingenuity to get somewhere. And I don't cheer against anyone else's success. I will never, ever be butthurt about someone else getting an order or someone else finding a contract or somebody else succeeding. Like, that's crazy. And if that is someone's natural inclination, you should probably see a therapist, because you are not a person that is you're missing empathy in your soul. And so I think that we also know that the drone industry is full of empathetic people and full of people that are just willing to help, lend a helping hand, that will call up their buddy when they know that there's an opportunity that they can't fulfill. And so you're bringing up Yoshi. I know Yoshi because I've been in this space, right? But didn't know you would bring him up, didn't know that you knew him. But it's exactly that. It's, you now know him, so you've automatically increased your opportunities. But how many more Yoshis are there out there? And all it takes is for you to say a kind word on a social media post, or reach out and say, hey, see that you're doing this cool stuff. Like, what kind of stuff do you do? Because I may have opportunities that we could send vice versa. Like, imagine an inbox full of positive shit, like people saying nice things about what you're doing, willing to be a helping hand, and also, taking the opposite approach where they're like, hey, I could use some help. If you see these opportunities, let me know. It is how you know somebody. It is how you grow. It is how you become a brand within the drone space, in any space. And yet, very few people do it. So if someone's watching this and you are at Sinclair College, or you are maybe looking for the next job opportunity, or you're super happy with the job you have and you feel stable enough that you can spend 15 minutes doing something, go on LinkedIn, look at a post, comment on it, say something nice, click the person's name, message them, say something nice, because it will pay off and it will make a better working environment for all of us, a better country that, in the division that we have today. What could be better than reaching out to somebody you don't know and finding common ground? And so I encourage anyone to do that, and I'll do it myself. And when we're done in 6 minutes, I'll go reach out to a new person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm in a lucky position that, my CEO's been willing to allow me to kind of take my own approach to the podcast. And I got to say that, you've been a big influence on kind of how the way I want to direct it, and, that positive, nurturing kind of mentoring mentality. So, once again, I appreciate you, willing to come on. And I guess, kind of wrapping things up, what are some of the, kind of the stuff on your horizon for Anzu, and what's kind of some stuff that, we can look forward to?
So because the first 10, well, especially the first 3-4 months weren't exactly as intended, we could have spun up a bunch of different product lines and, been in a place where we had a clear roadmap, but we don't, because of legislative threats, because, we were stifled to sell our drones for a period of time due to Customs and Border Patrol. We're in a good place now. We're kind of ramping back up. We also have international opportunities, international customers that are taking a good number of the units that we've built to get to a point in which we can, dream up reinvestment. I, again, believe in what we're doing and we're staying the course. But if things would have went a different way, we would have likely had a consumer product. We would have likely had an FPV product and maybe a larger platform airframe at this point. So, what's on the horizon for Anzu is that we're in a wait and see situation, like most manufacturers, to find out where legislation falls. We're 1 month into a new presidential term, and that dictates a lot of things. There's just not a lot of focus on drones right now, as there was maybe even in November, December, with the stuff happening in New Jersey, and even the fires in LA. We're bringing up drone news right now. It's just kind of on at a different level. So because Anzu is built to address legislation, it's built to address something being removed from our ecosystem. We're kind of just staying the course. People are flying our drones. We're selling them. We've built a lot. So it's there's not going to be anything earth shattering in the near term from us, but we do have plans and we do have things that we want to execute on. But it'll be when the time's right.
Yeah, absolutely. And for people listening that would like to follow your journey, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you and that type
My
of stuff?
answer is going to be a little unique than most. So obviously LinkedIn, follow, message, do whatever. You also have my work email, randall@anzurobotics.com, which if it's business related, you could go there. I also have my personal email, randallwarnas@gmail.com. And the reason I put that out is that if you are in a position where you could use some words of encouragement, some feedback on the idea that you have, there are people. I just talking to a guy yesterday, and he's like, so if I showed up in Kyiv in 3 months from now, and I was like, hey, I want to help you with your drone, efforts, what do you think would happen? I was like, don't do that. That's a bad idea. And so just restructuring the idea of ways to approach your goal, objective, dream. Like, I've been in a lot of positions that you might find yourself in. Like, reach out. There's nothing I love more than spending my time solving other people's problems. It gets me out of my own. So you can reach out to me in any of those ways. And even if you can't reach me there, then reach out to Will and he'll put you in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a couple things as far as air velocity that I'm excited to announce, and a couple things I have to hold on to for a little bit. But one of the biggest things I'm proud of is we're going to be doing a webinar with Yellowscan. And for those who aren't familiar with Yellowscan, they're one of the largest LiDAR manufacturers in the world, and we use a lot of their products. And so we're kind of in the process of getting the finishing touches, and we'll be doing a webinar with them. You can find, I'll post stuff all over our LinkedIn, Air Velocity's LinkedIn, but that's coming up Friday. Today's Wednesday. Friday, I'll be at the National Museum of the Air Force in Dayton, Ohio, birthplace of aviation. I'll be flying one of these little FPVs in the FPV race. And if you've never seen that, it's a really cool event. Brings in a lot of drone pilots, and I'll be actually talking with the inventor, Jesse Perkins of tinywhoop.com. He's actually the inventor of the Tiny Whoop, and we'll find out about the story of how they got that name. And so a great networking. It's kind of, just to touch on a little bit back to the scholarship type or internship type stuff. We're kind of helping a lot of people do drones as a hobby, but want to do them as a career. And so I'm happy to kind of talk about that and help people that, do it as a hobby that might want to do it as a career. So once again, Randall, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time, and it's always a pleasure talking with you. And, I'm excited to hear more about Anzu, and maybe in a year we can have the same discussion and, podcast number 56 or something. Yeah.
Look forward to that. Webinar stuff, I have ideas, ways to make it more beneficial. So let's talk about that sometime. And then last thing I'll say is I haven't forgotten I made a commitment to reach out to someone random. So I'm going to go on LinkedIn right this second and go send a message of positivity with someone in the drone space. And if you don't believe me, you could ask me about it and I'll tell you exactly who I talked to and what I said. But anyways, man, I appreciate you, and stoked to see you take a chance at something. Again, it didn't require permission, maybe from your organization. You ran it up the chain, but you just said, I want to do this, and now you're doing it. And I commend that. That's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm lucky to have a supportive group like you and my boss. And so once again, thank you so much.
Of course, brother.